Hey there, and welcome to another episode of Media Savvy Podcast with Bonnie Taub-Dix. I am so glad you're here today. And if you're new to the podcast, welcome. And if you're a usual listener, I am so happy that you're back again because today I'm going to talk about a subject that I love talking about, and that is how to get off of a difficult question. And if you've been watching political shows of late, I don't know how you could avoid them, but I'm sure you've noticed how frustrating it is when a guest is asked a question and they just give a different answer. I mean, they don't answer the question and it just drives me crazy. However, there are times during your interviews when it's important to know how to pivot or dance away from a difficult question. And this is what I wanted to address with you today. So I have been in many situations where I had to switch gears and take control of the interview. And what I want to share with you on Media Savvy is if this ever happens to you, not to get flustered because you can be in charge. There are three powerful techniques that you could use, just like the politicians use, to get your messages across. And those are bridging, flagging, and hooking. And you could rely on these tools effectively to control and steer your media interviews. These messages will ensure that your key messages are clearly communicated, even in challenging situations. So let's get to them. Bridging. Bridging is a technique that's used to transition from the interviewer's question to your own key messages. And it allows you to acknowledge the question and then pivot to what you really want to talk about. I'll admit, I love bridging. Even with my own family, I use bridging. Just ask my kids. This is perhaps the most effective technique in making the interview go your way and in getting your messages across. It's a way to transition back from an off-topic question to the subject at hand. Let's say the interview is about eating more salads, and you're representing a salad company, but the interviewer says, "Why are obesity statistics continuing to climb in this country?" Okay, that was not what they were supposed to ask you. So you could respond by saying, "While it's true those rates are climbing, but one of the ways that we could address the problem is perhaps just to try to get people to eat more salads." You could increase the feeling of fullness while they're also getting a wide variety of benefits, including giving us so many of the nutrients that children and adults just are not getting enough of in this country. All right, how'd you like that? I didn't really answer the question, but I got to what I wanted to say. Some other bridging terms would be, "Oh yes, you might also want to know," or saying, "Well, let's look at the bigger picture." Or you could say, "Well, before we get to that, here's what I'd really like to highlight." And then you could take it in your own direction. Also, you could say, "Well, that's a great question, but the key issue is actually this," and just turn it around. You could also say, "Well, I'm not really sure about that, but here's what I can tell you." And you could also say, "Well, that may be the case, but here's something else to think about." These are all ways that you could bridge or pivot or dance around the question that you were asked without actually answering their question. Another technique is called flagging. And flagging is a way for you to signal your audience that something important is coming up. Think about flagging as underlining the most important sentence in a paragraph or putting something in bold. All right, so here's the most important thing that I want to tell you about flagging. See what I did there? I just flagged you. I told you that this was the most important thing. And even if you were multitasking, you may have dropped what you were doing and tried to pay attention to that. That's exactly what flagging does. It's a way to call particular attention to certain messages by saying things like, "One thing you need to remember is," or "Most importantly, don't forget that," or "My takeaway message is," and then there you go. Give your message. It helps to emphasize your key points, ensuring that they stand out in the interview. And this could be super effective in making sure that your most important messages are remembered by the audience. Some other examples of flagging: if there's one thing you need to remember, it's this: the most important point is blank. What really needs to be understood here is X. It's essential that we focus on whatever. And by the way, some people save their flagging moments for the end. Don't save your most important point for the end of the segment because you may never get to it, because segments get cut all the time. So if you have a message that you must get out there, especially if you're working for a brand, get it out as soon as you can. Okay, the final technique is called hooking. Hooking involves using compelling information or questions to keep the interviewer and the audience engaged. It's about making your message so intriguing that it hooks the audience's attention, prompting them to want to hear more. So basically, you're setting up the interviewer so that they will ask you the question that you want to be asked. You want to make them want to know more. Here are some examples of hooking. You could say, did you know that a simple change in your breakfast routine can improve your energy levels all day long? Let me explain how. They may not have even wanted to know that, but you're definitely going to explain how. This hooks the listener by promising an easy, beneficial tip that you could then elaborate on. Here are some other hooking phrases. You might be surprised to learn X. Or here's something many people don't realize. It's X. Or have you ever wondered why, kind of like, did you know that X? Or this one, oh, you'll love to hear that a recent study showed whatever. Or you could say, there are a number of ways you could boost your metabolism. Here are a few. Just a few ways that you could use this hooking technique. So these techniques could blend together seamlessly during an interview. For example, you might flag an important point, use bridging to transition away from a tricky question that got you away from your point, and then hook the audience with an interesting fact or a statistic that reinforces your flagged message. By using these techniques in your media interviews, you could have the security of knowing that your key messages or the messages of the brand or the organization that you're working with will be heard clearly and remembered, regardless of the direction that the interview actually started as. No one will understand what you're doing, but this strategic type of communication can enhance your effectiveness and your media presence. But also, it can help you score future interviews because it'll demonstrate that you have command of the mic. So I hope you liked these techniques today. I actually hope that you'll use them. If you do use them, please let me know. I love when my listeners then take command of their interviews. And if you have any questions that you'd like me to answer or anything you'd like me to address, please contact me at bonnie@btdnutrition.com, or you could find my Instagram at BTD Nutrition. Oh, sorry. It's actually at BTD Media. So I hope I hear from you. I hope you'll subscribe to the show. Please write a review. And until next time, you're looking mighty media savvy today. Please keep it up.